Welcome to the Tapping World Summit 2015. This is your host, Jessica Ordner. By listening to this interview, you agree to the terms located at thetapping.solution.com/disclaimer. We hope this interview helps you become a healthier and a happier you. Do you have dreams and desires, but you feel like you're always falling short? You might know exactly what you want, or simply know that you want more, but limiting beliefs about yourself and the way that you view the world may be the very thing that is keeping you frozen in place. James Allen famously said, "The outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to reflect their inner beliefs." So as we are here to improve our lives, we must start by looking inward at our own beliefs. Whether we are conscious of these beliefs or not, they are creating our current reality. So in this interview, you'll have the opportunity to reflect on your beliefs and discover how to break through from the 5 most common beliefs that keep you from what you really want. To lead the way, we are speaking to Karl Dossohn from matrixreimprinting.com. Over the last 10 years, Karl has taught thousands of EFT trainees from all over the globe how to transform their emotional health. He is the creator of Matrix Reimprinting, which is a modality that uses tapping. Karl's book, Matrix Reimprinting Using EFT, written with co-author Sasha Allenby, was released by Hay House in 2010 and has been published in 10 languages. And he has a new book coming out entitled Transform Your Beliefs. Welcome, Karl.
Hello, Jessica. Wonderful to be with you.
I'm happy that you're with us. This is such an important topic. Do you find that most people are even aware of what their beliefs are?
Absolutely. What I've found in recent years is the focus is more and more on beliefs. For many years with tapping, we're tapping to resolve the trauma of things that have happened in the past. But what I've really moved on to, and it's made a huge difference in understanding the realizations for myself and clients, is that in these moments of trauma, we always make a belief or a decision about ourselves and the world. And once we have those beliefs, that controls everything. It's what we attract into our lives. We look for proof of these beliefs. We create situations to reinforce the beliefs, and also how we react to any situation is based on these previous experiences in our belief systems. So it becomes just about everything. The most important thing in our lives is our belief systems, and most people are, unfortunately, very unaware of what these beliefs are that are controlling their lives.
Right. I know a lot of times we even confuse facts with beliefs. We have something happen to us and we use it as proof of why our belief is a fact. And when in reality, as I said in the introduction, we hear from so many famous authors and experts that our external environment really is representing our beliefs. So can you give us some other examples on how powerful beliefs really are?
Well, if we look at some very old beliefs, we could look at the fact that at one stage, people thought the world was flat. And then it was only after centuries that we realized it actually was round. And if we talk about what we do in helping people, if we look at the medical model, medicine is based on Newtonian science, which believes that the body is a machine. It has parts, and it only looks at molecules. So that's the belief in science, for example. What should have changed around the dawn of the era of quantum physics in the 20s is knowing that our body is controlled by energy, and basically that what we think, our belief systems, is 100 times more powerful than the molecules only affecting the body. Just one thought can create up to 300 chemical reactions in the body. So taking that further, we also realize now through the work of people like Dr. Bruce Lipton and other scientists in the field of epigenetics that unlike the current medical model where it's believed that genes control virtually everything in our life, the idea of genetic determinism, it is actually our belief systems and how we respond to the environment, that information coming in. And so we have things like, the EMFs and gamma waves and microwaves and the movement of the planets and, food that comes into the system. All these things affect our body, but the one that's the most important is what we believe.
I love that you said beliefs, the way that we think, has such a significant impact on our body, and we see this over and over again. Can you tell us a little bit about how beliefs actually impact us physically and why you believe tapping is such a great tool to help shift these beliefs?
Okay. Well, a good example again from from medicine is the idea of the placebo effect. There was a doctor, Irving Kirsch, who was a professor at Harvard Medical School, that wanted to challenge the idea of the effectiveness of antidepressants. An industry that's worth $11 billion in the US alone annually. So he looked at some initial studies and invoked the Freedom of Information Act to get some unpublished clinical trials from the pharmaceutical companies on antidepressants. And he found that out of 48 trials, only 20 actually showed that there was better results with the actual medications of antidepressants than there was placebo. And then on the other side of this, we also have the understanding of the nocebo effect, where doctors have told patients that they have a particular disease, they've been misdiagnosed, they've given them a prognosis of, you'll be dead in 6 months. People have actually died in 6 months, but when they've done an autopsy, there's actually nothing wrong with them. So the power of belief is that strong and that important in our lives.
I mean, which shows why it's so important for us to have this conversation. So this brings me to tapping. Why do you think that tapping is an important modality to use to help change these beliefs? And what would you say to someone who thinks, well, then are you saying that tapping is simply a placebo effect because we think it's going to work?
No, absolutely not. It's certainly not placebo. Well, first of all, we talked about medicine. Now, we're enculturated, we're brought up from a very early age. If you get sick, then you go to a doctor, you have some kind of medication, some kind of lotion or portion provided by a doctor, and this will make you well again. We have no belief system that tapping on yourself, and I think everyone, right, including myself, and I'm sure yourself, when you first did tapping, it was like, well, this is just crazy.
Yes.
How the hell can this help? But we tried it. And it worked, and we were blown away by it. And then we saw it working with everybody else. And now we understand, we've got a lot more understanding, I certainly have, of how it works and why it works. But first of all, if we look at how belief is formed and what happens, and then we can talk about how we can resolve this.
Okay.
So first of all, most of our negative beliefs, and my experience over the last 5 or 6 years since I've been looking for this, is that all of our core beliefs go back to the age before 6 years old. The reason for this is, for those first 6 years, we're primarily in delta and theta. We're basically in a hypnotic state. We're watching what goes on around us. We watch the behavior of our parents. We model that behavior. We just learn through observation. And then we do the same thing. Nature kept that consciousness out. Then we could just download all the things we need to learn. So it's a huge learning state. We learn so many things, both positive, negative, and neutral. So things like how to tie your shoelaces, or clean your teeth, or go to the toilet and wipe the toilet seat if you made a mess. All these hundreds of things. But also, what's so important at that time is when we have a trauma, and it doesn't take much for a child to be traumatized. All you need is the feeling of powerlessness, the threat to your survival. So depending on the child, that could purely be a parent saying to the child, go away, I've not got time for you right now. In that moment, the child considers that becomes a trauma in itself, and decisions made. And once that decision's there, now we're in trouble. Because that's when we'll start to look for proof of and create that belief over and over again. What happens is we go through life with all these myriad of beliefs that we take into our into our teenage years and then into our adulthood, our beliefs become the framework for our whole lives, our lives themselves and our bodies, our health, our friendships, everything is a printout of our belief systems. And based on these beliefs, we have to make generalizations. Imagine what it would be like, Jessica, if every day we woke up and we had to start from scratch. You pick up a sock, what do I do with this? Do I put it on my head? Do I put it on my hand? So we generalize. Once we've learned, we learn how to open a window, undo the door, whatever it is. Once we've learned it, we've got that down in the subconscious, so we don't have to learn it again. The problem is we also generalize things like, I'm not good enough, the world's dangerous, I need to be perfect, you can't trust men, can't trust women, I need to be in control, and on and on and on. All these beliefs interplay with each other. And we hold them all in our subconscious. It's estimated that 99% or up to 99% of everything we do in a day is run through these generalizations, including our belief systems. That's why, so often, because they're below our conscious awareness, we just react and behave the same over and over again. And because it's subconscious, even being aware of it consciously doesn't change it. We've got to change those patterns.
See, you made that's an important point you're saying right there. Just being aware of it consciously often isn't enough. And so that brings in tapping. But what does tapping actually do to help transform a belief? I think it's so interesting to learn about how beliefs have a physical impact on us, that physical response of that fight, flight, or freeze. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So once we have these beliefs, and you talked about the freeze response, many years ago I used to think that trauma is about fight and flight, but it's not in itself. If you fight, that's just physically fighting or verbally or just standing your ground, there's resolution. If you flight, you've escaped, you've got away, there's resolution. So when you get to that point where you can't fight back, you can't escape, you freeze. And that's actually when we get traumatized. So once those memories, and it's actually these memories encoded in our subconscious that we then turn to as a kind of a reference point. So in every situation, subconsciously, we tune into these images in our subconscious. And if we're in a situation that we consider threatening, and then that triggers the amygdala response, we go through the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary adrenals. We have this release of adrenaline, blood sugars, cortisol, cortisone. And then this affects every single system in the body, from blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature, even the acidity, adrenal and thyroid function, immune system, our cellular behavior, which DNA is read or not if you're running these patterns too often, your intelligence, stress, digestion, sleep patterns, hunger, thirst, reproduction, everything is controlled. I was here so many times with the medical profession whose handbook, the Merck's Manual, which is a list of all the diseases. With most of the diseases, they'll tell you what's happening in the body. But when it comes down to why it's happening, a vast amount of the disease is known to man. The cause is unknown, which I find very strange to me. But this is quite simple. If all these systems are changing because you perceive your situation as threatening subconsciously, and you go into this fight and flight and potentially freeze situation, then if you're in that situation for long enough and you can't get out of it, then the body will start to make changes on a more permanent basis. And that's what disease is, whether it's psychological or physical. So the tapping, where that comes in, is actually going back to these memories where all these belief systems originated from. And the beauty of tapping is we can work through these specific memories. And by tapping on these meridian points as we work through the memories, each stage when something happened and there's some emotional response, I see the tapping is actually like a switch. Instead of subconsciously keep running the pattern over and over again, we can tune into those feelings very specifically. And when we tap, it's like pressing a reset button. It's almost like just turning off that signal. Mm-hmm. So when we go back to look at these memories, the response is very different. And of course, if the subconscious is acting, sees a different perception, and it doesn't react the same way, then that means we come out of stress. So same events, but they no longer trigger us into that response, which means, if you're not in the stress response, you're in the heal and grow response. So you can, recover and heal from situations, from illnesses. And so to me, it's quite simple. It's just turn off that response, you react differently to life.
It's so important to have this conversation and have this understanding, because I think a lot of us can be so hard on ourselves. We have a belief, we go into that panic, we worry, we have that physical response, and we use that physical response, one, to tell ourselves, well, this belief must be true because I feel it with my whole body. And the second thing we do is we tend to also beat ourselves up over that response and be hard on ourselves. When we gain this understanding, we realize that our body is simply having this response because it's trying to keep us safe. And so instead of being mean to ourselves and criticizing ourselves, we can have more compassion and understanding, and then go back to the time where we learned that belief and begin to use the tapping. Before we go into these limiting beliefs, you have a great story. It's the spider story with Sarah. And I love this story because I think it's a great example of how our body can have a physical reaction over a belief. Could you share that story with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a very simple story. Sarah, one day, she sat down having breakfast, and across the floor walks a spider. And based on the previous experience, childhood experience, maybe even watching mum be scared of spiders, she sees that it becomes an environmental signal that she's in danger. She goes into full-blown fight and flight. She panics. She runs out of the room, screaming, and closes the door behind her. That's common, but you can think of other situations, like maybe you've got to do some public speaking, and as soon as you think about that, your body reacts in a certain way. And what's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, Jessica, but what you feel in that moment is exactly what you felt, back when you was, 5, 6, 7 years old, when you was originally traumatized. It's the same feeling. And so the upside is, yes, these responses protect you from situations that are perceptually dangerous. The downside is, a lot of the times, the response, they're not needed anymore. The responses are just not in relation to your today's environment. But as we talked about earlier, you'll still react exactly the same over and over again because it's a subconscious response. The conscious mind is not in control. So unless we go and change these things subconsciously, the best you can do is learn to manage the behaviors and the symptoms. But that's where tapping comes in. We can turn off them signals that are not appropriate any longer. So
how did Sarah do that?
Just purely going through this specific memory, and not only that memory, but going back to earlier memories as well, where she was originally traumatized by a spider. We run through the memories step by step, and at each point, there can be lots of what we call aspects, different little bits and pieces of what happened. And we stop, we tune into the feelings, we tune into what actually happened, we tap on those aspects, it clears it. So that changes then how we react in the future.
Yeah, because anyone who's ever had any kind of phobia understands that, yes, they have this belief that maybe this spider, the snake, isn't safe, but logically, they know that they're okay. They know that little daddy long legs isn't going to attack them, but it's so hard to reason with yourself when you have that panic response. So we know so far that one of the best things to do is to go back and to see when we picked up that belief. And we're going to go through these 5 beliefs in just a moment. But what is the process that you like to do to help your clients find those events and use tapping?
Okay, so first of all, we have to find the events. And for a lot of people, especially when these events go back to pre-6, and the amount of times I've heard, well, how can I do this? Because I have no memory at all of where this comes from.
Right.
So it's either that they don't remember the pre-6 events or the childhood events is one side of it. And the other issue is that, yes, I have this problem now, but I don't know where it goes back to. So we've got to find it. So with that bit of information I shared with you earlier, that what you feel with any situation, not just a phobia, it could be an allergy, it could be depression or anxiety. There's an energy there. When I say energy, I'm saying that there's a information in the body. So all we need to do is get the person to think about the issue. So in this case, we got her to think about a spider. She thinks about a spider. She feels certain things in her body. It might be tightness in her chest and a fear in her stomach. We tune to these feelings. We tap a little bit to tune her in further, and then just asking the simple question, where does it go back to? So maybe we could do that now with yourself and the listeners here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tapping we're about to do is to help us remember and discover where these beliefs might come from.
Absolutely. Yes? So that's the first thing. So I don't want anybody to get into a massive trauma here. So let's look on something lighter, maybe just abundance.
Okay, fantastic. So lead the way and I'll tap. And I really recommend everyone that's listening to take this time to tap.
Okay. So first of all, just think, we can go on the positive here. It doesn't matter whether you go positive or negative. Once you start to tune into these, thinking about these situations, if you went on the positive and it feels wrong for the body, there'll be some energy. It's like the body says no. So that's what you're looking for. So if you close your eyes, everybody, and just take a deep breath or two, and you're going to clear your mind. You're not consciously going looking for the memories here. You're just going to allow it to happen subconsciously. So what we'll do is we'll just tap through the upper body points. So top of the head, the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the eye, the central gut meridians, which are just above the top lip and below the bottom lip, on the collarbone, under the arm, and across the wrist. And then we'll just go back to the top of the head. Okay.
We learned here at the summit 9 points, but you added the wrist point. And I know it's one that Lindsay Kenny likes as well. So can you just tell us real quick where that point is?
Okay. So if you just look where the pulse is, it's tapping across this point. Okay. And actually what it's doing is covering all the finger meridians.
Okay, fantastic. So lead the way and I'll tap. And I really recommend everyone that's listening to take this time to tap.
Okay. So first of all, just think, we can go on the positive here. It doesn't matter whether you go positive or negative. Once you start to tune into these, thinking about these situations, if you went on the positive and it feels wrong for the body, there'll be some energy. It's like the body says no. So that's what you're looking for. So if you close your eyes, everybody, and just take a deep breath or two, and you're going to clear your mind. You're not consciously going looking for the memories here. You're just going to allow it to happen subconsciously. So what we'll do is we'll just tap through the upper body points.
Okay, great.
Okay, so what we're doing is think of either having lots of money, $5 million. Imagine what that would be like. Or if it's a relationship, imagine having that perfect, wonderful, deep, loving, intimate relationship. And as you're focused on one or the other of these two, just start to tap through those points. That's all you need to do. Just keep breathing. And when you tap, you start to feel some energy in your body somewhere. Just something that doesn't feel quite comfortable about having that thing that you consciously you'd really like. Is the subconscious throwing up some energy, some blockage there? Where is that feeling? So if it was in the chest, you might say, okay, it's in the chest, or it's in the stomach, or it's in my head. And as you keep tapping, so you need to think to yourself, what size would that be? So is it like a big soccer ball, or is it a golf ball? Is it jagged? Just what kind of feeling is that? What's the density of it? Is it heavy? Is it light? And then as you keep tapping, just what would the colour be? Colour is the language of the nervous system, very important. So what would the colour be? Would it be red or blue or green? And lastly, what would the emotion be of that feeling in your body? Is it anger or fear or sadness? So really tune into that energy, really feel that energy in your body. I just want you to ask yourself this question. If there was an earlier time in your life where you felt this same feeling, when would that be? How old would you be? Now, just try to do that. Just let go of the conscious mind. Just see what comes up. Just guess at the answer. When you've guessed at what age you would be, where would you be at that age? Can you see yourself? Where would you be? Would you be at school, at home, out in the garden, playing with friends? So with most people, something will start to come up. Just trust whatever comes up is relevant. Okay? So now, hopefully we have a specific memory. This memory's come to the surface. So now we're going to look at the movie technique. So what you can do is you just give it a level of intensity. 10 would be very intense, 0 would be no intensity whatsoever. I'm just going to really simplify this technique. So what we're going to do, we're going to start at the beginning of this memory that's come to the surface. Just look where you were, maybe when everything was okay. Nothing had gone wrong at this point. And I just want you to start to loop through the memory very slowly. Now this, as all therapy, does work better with two people. But I'm sure most of you will be able to just help a little bit with changing the response. Start to look through it. What happened? Could have been you was at trouble at school one day and you've been told to get out of the class. So the teacher shouting at you might be the first aspect, as we would call it. So we just do a little setup, tapping on the karate chop point. Even though the teacher shouted at me and I felt embarrassed and stupid, I was told to get out of the class, and I feel this kind of embarrassment in my chest. So it's whatever happened, whatever you feel, we can just do a setup on that and just start to tap through the points and just keep tapping. Usually when you're very specific, exactly what you feel, exactly what happened, 1 or 2 rounds and it'll really come down. Then what happened next? Okay, so I was sent to the headmaster's office. And I sat outside, and he popped his head out and he said, "You stupid boy or you stupid girl, you don't deserve to be at this school." So that's the next little sequence you might do on the karate chop point. Even though the teacher, the headmaster, said, "You're stupid, you don't deserve to be at this school." And I just feel all this frustration and anger in my chest, or whatever you feel. So we just work through the memory. And there tends to be quite a few aspects. There might be something else where the mother was called and the mother comes down the corridor and she's looking really angry and sad, and it just makes you feel really guilty now. So that's what you tap on, and then she says, "Get in the car, we're going home, and your dad's going to be so angry with you." That might be another aspect you need to tap on. So what we do, just work through the memories from beginning to end of that segment. And then what's really important, this was a real massive breakthrough when I started using this years ago, was to, at that point when all the trauma's gone, in that moment, what was the belief or decision you made about yourself that day? And when you ask yourself the question, then it really helps bring it up to the surface, or when you're working with clients, exactly what it was you decided that day. So in this case, it might be, well, I'm no good, I'm a bad girl. So now we've got a belief there. Now it's a case of, okay, if that went back further, where would that be? How old would you be? And we just chase these back. And this what will always go back pre-6. So we're looking just to find the belief, find what happened. And what you find is once you run through these memories, you got rid of all the trauma and all these emotions, all these feelings, kind of hold everything in place with the belief system. And it's like once you've tapped on these memories, it cracks open this whole belief. And especially when you know what the belief is, you get what we call a cognitive shift. You start thinking, you know what? I was just doing the best I could. I was just a little girl. It wasn't my fault. Somebody else, the teacher should have behaved better. Whatever it is, you just start to see things differently. The problem with trauma is that once you've been traumatized, we hold these as current ongoing events in our subconscious. So the conscious mind, it's in the past. But to the subconscious, when we've been traumatized, we hold it as current, ongoing, present day situations. So that's why it really shapes how we react to situations. But what you find once you tap through these memories, it puts these memories in the past where they belong. And with that, you see a different perspective. So